UK food price inflation recently hit a 45-year high as global weather patterns began overriding traditional supply chain drivers. This dial visualizes a critical threshold. According to the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, the UK's food self-sufficiency has fallen to 60%. That means 4 out of every 10 meals eaten in the country rely entirely on imported calories. This creates a two-front war for the food supply. Extreme weather events are destroying domestic crops at home, while simultaneously collapsing the international harvest networks we usually rely on as a backup. For lower-income households, there is no buffer against these shocks. They already spend over 14% of their income on food, meaning any disruption in the supply chain forces immediate, painful sacrifices. Relying on international markets to bridge a domestic shortfall assumes that global supply chains remain stable even while local harvests are failing. Look at England in August 2026. 71% of the country's land area is officially classified as being in a state of drought. Large regions received less than a single millimeter of rainfall over a week. Without that basic input, river flows dropped rapidly. 15 monitoring sites were officially classified as exceptionally low. The immediate civic response is triage. 8 separate water companies imposed hosepipe bans, placing legal restrictions on water use for over 27 million people. The shortage extends far beyond garden taps. England's reservoir storage plummeted to 65.9%, leaving vast stretches of dry banks exposed and infrastructure failing. To protect whatever water is left, the Environment Agency restricted over 1,500 abstraction licenses. For farmers, this means the valves they use to irrigate their fields are legally shut off. We already saw the result of this sequence in 2025. That year's drought resulted in England's second-worst harvest on record, severely cutting the yield of essential crops like wheat. The damage cascades. Parched fields mean stunted grass growth, which forces livestock farmers to burn through their winter forage stocks months ahead of schedule. When the physical water infrastructure fails this comprehensively, domestic agriculture simply cannot produce enough calories to sustain the population. This scale illustrates a hidden vulnerability in that 60% self-sufficiency metric. The government calculates it by economic value, weighing the monetary worth of domestic crops against the cost of international imports, rather than counting the physical volume of food. When extreme droughts hit major producing nations like Brazil and Vietnam in 2025, the global commodity price of coffee spiked by as much as 100%. The physical amount of food didn't change, but the math did. Because of drought-stricken crops abroad, the UK paid an extra £1 billion in 2025 just to import the exact same amount of tea and coffee. The exact same dynamic hit protein markets. Severe droughts across the United States devastated grazing lands, triggering a massive spike in the global price of beef. The Climate Change Committee projects that by 2050, roughly half of all the fruit and legumes imported into the UK will originate from highly climate-vulnerable nations. Because these weather shocks are hitting global markets at the exact same time, trying to buy our way out of a domestic shortfall guarantees massive price spikes at the checkout. The agricultural systems we rely on were built for a world of predictable seasons and perpetually cheap international imports. That world no longer exists. This topographical map outlines the UK's current high-quality farmland. The Climate Change Committee warns that without immediate adaptation, those arable zones will shrink from 38% of the landmass down to a mere 11% by 2050. Losing 2/3 of the nation's best soil makes incremental improvements irrelevant. It requires a shift toward crops and water management systems that can survive a 2-degree warmer world. The immediate physical step is capturing water while we have it. That means stripping away regulatory barriers so farmers can construct large-scale, on-farm water storage tanks to survive the dry months. It also requires rewriting government policy. Agricultural subsidies must be redesigned to financially reward farmers who build climate resilience into their soil, rather than paying exclusively for maximum yield. Securing a 60% domestic production target serves as a survival mandate, ensuring basic nutrition remains accessible rather than becoming a luxury good.